Frank Luntz is a Republican strategist and pollster. He joins us now from Cleveland. Frank, good to see you.
Good morning. How are you guys?
So what did you make of Donald Trump's speech?
Well, there are two objectives of any political convention. One is to basically destroy your opponent, and the other is to build up your candidate. On that first point, the convention in general and Trump in particular was very effective. We've been focus grouping these 20 voters starting back on Sunday all the way through the convention, and there isn't a single one of the 20 that is now considering voting for Hillary Clinton after Donald Trump's speech. However, only 8 of the 20 are now leaning towards Donald Trump, even though they came in undecided. They like Trump's general principles, his priorities, but they have issues with some of the details. When he's speaking about what he wants to do in general, they're backing him, even those who lean Democrat. But when they get to things like building a wall or some of the trade policies, you see some opposition, some clear opposition. I think in the end, by the time the polling numbers come in by Monday, you're going to see the two candidates in a dead heat. Trump may even be a couple points ahead. But then after the Democrats come at this and they do the same thing to Trump that he did to Hillary Clinton, we've got a dead heat on our hands.
You know, a lot of people have characterized the speech as sort of dark. Paul Manafort said, look, this is a reflection of the reality. This is what's happening in this country. Really different from sort of the hope and change we had heard during the last couple of elections. I'm wondering, do you think it was a little too dark or no?
Well, when you have 71% of Americans who think the country is seriously off on the wrong track, when you have 56% of Americans who believe their kids are going to have a worse life than them, when they look at the economy and say that it isn't back, and 53% are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to get by, this is not a country that's in a very strong position right now. People do feel dark about the future. He reflected in what he said how they feel. And I think that's one reason why someone with no political experience whatsoever is actually only a couple points behind someone with a quarter century of being a Washington insider.
Frank, as you know, I'm a fan of presidential history, and I've been looking back at Richard Nixon's speech in 1968 because Donald Trump said that he's a law and order candidate this time around. Nixon was using that sort of same term back in 68. But there was to me, there's a huge difference, and that's what maybe perhaps history at time clouds memories. But Nixon in this speech said, I see a day when we will again have freedom from fear in America and freedom from fear in the world. That's a fear line. But then he also says, let us build bridges to human dignity across the gulf that separates black America and white America. I didn't hear a whole lot of that in Trump's speech. I only heard the law and order part. I only heard that America is broken. I only heard that crime is rampant. But I didn't hear anything that suggests that there are some things that can be done better.
Well, what's interesting, I think people hear what they want to hear and disregard the rest. And I remember, because I was watching second by second as people were turning their dials, one of the most positive responses is when Trump talked about the tragedies and named the cities where this is happening, and how he said that the people who live in those cities deserve better, that they shouldn't have to suffer, that they should not have to live with the crime-ridden and the disgraceful education conditions. And in fact, he did so twice in his speech. And both of those moments, the Republicans and the Democrats were responding quite favorably. They were nodding their heads because they felt that Trump understood them. And what's different is that Hillary Clinton talks about fighting for them, that she wants to be their fighter. Donald Trump wants to be their voice. And frankly, they feel like they haven't been heard. They feel like if they have been heard, they've been rejected. And so the tone of Trump's speech, the tone was effective, even if some of the specific policy initiatives were not.
So you talked about that line, I am your voice. It's a line that's being repeated over and over again now in the morning news shows. Who was he trying to reach? Just the people in that convention center?
Well, it's interesting because that specific line was not effective. I am your voice. It's when he got into the discussion of voters not being heard, of people not being heard, and that I will fight for you, I will commit to you. That ending of his speech was one of the strongest endings that I've seen. And by the way, remember that Donald Trump isn't a professional politician. This guy is a businessman, and even if he's been on The Apprentice, even if he has significant experience with a camera, he doesn't have the experience on a stage with 15,000 people in that room, with every national camera on him globally. And he did better in that speech than I've ever seen him do. For the most part, he stuck to the text. For the most part, he delivered the lines effectively. And the passion that he gave, the passion that he showed, I think is going to make a difference. That's why I do believe that he will be tied with or even a few points ahead of Hillary Clinton.
All right, Frank Luntz, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.